Well, we won't even let the children play with 110 volts here. But we're talking about the voltage of God. We're talking about the power of the universe. He's not going to let children play with that. You'll kill yourself, and maybe everybody else too. So God is going to keep that for those that are the sons of God. And there's a level of maturity in you. Beloved, grow up quick, because I tell you, there's a great inheritance in store for you. It says here, you're under tutors and governors. Listen, let me just tell you, I've said this before, but I will say it again because it's important. The children in the Jewish home were never sent out to school. In the Jewish home, the children were always schooled at home. And the teacher was always chosen by the father, because it was essential for the children not just to learn how to read and write, but it was essential for those children to learn the character of the father. Had to know the character of the father. That was the important issue of their education. So Paul says, if you're a child, you're under tutors and governors, and you're under the elements of the world. The 10 Commandments, plus, all of those things. That's the children. But it says here, but when the fullness of time had come, and that fullness of time is in the hand of the Father. And when he says that you're ready, then you will be a son, adopted as a son into his family. That's according to the Jewish concept. Adoption today is different. That's why that word is a little bit misleading for us. I don't know what you do here in Australia, but in America. In Australia, you see, we took 3 extra children into our family. We did not actually adopt them legally, but the government gave them to us, allowed us to keep them and so on. And they've grown up now. One is a lawyer, and the girl, she's married and doing okay. So you see, that was like an adoption for us. It meant children from another family were taken into our family. That's what adoption is for us. But see here, you're already God's family. Why? Because you are created out of God. You are the children of God by creation. Come on. You're already the children of God. So it's not adoption in the sense that we understand it. But you are taken into the family as a responsible son, which means in any given situation, you will respond in that situation exactly as the Father would. You hear this? What did Jesus Christ say to Philip? Philip, if you have seen me, I'm the Son, you have seen my Father. Oh, Lord, help us today. Help us, Lord. What a responsibility we have. God is putting that responsibility on us. But you know, he's also giving you the means that it may be accomplished in you. Why? Because he's putting the Christ in you. He's not just asking you to be a son. He's put the Son in you, and that Son is simply going to take over your body. That's what he's going to do. He's the King. And when the King was born on this earth, Jesus Christ, he said the kingdom of God is in you, which means the King is in you. That is Christ. And if the King is in you, he's in charge. Come on. If you live in the kingdom, the King's word is final. It's absolute. Nobody argues with the King. Nobody argues with the King. He's not interested in what you think. The King speaks, and it is. He said, I know the people of old time, they said, you know, if you hate your brother, he said you're a murderer. But of course, that was his words, that because the king had the final say. They said you should not commit adultery. That's what they said back in the Old Testament under the law. You should not commit adultery. But when the king came, what did he say? He said, if you look upon a woman to lust after her, you have committed adultery. That's the word of the king. That's final. No argument. You can't appeal to the judge and say, I'm sorry, sir, but I didn't mean it. You know, it was just something came over me. Doesn't matter. If you were in Israel, under those conditions, they'd take you out in the paddock and you're dead. They would stone you to death. So the word of the king is final. So now, going back, I want you to go to Luke chapter 1. Luke chapter 1. And verse 26. And in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent from God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth to a virgin. Well, I want to tell you, God sent this little guy from Australia to a bunch of people here in Concordia to bring you a message. And this message is to the virgins. If you're not a virgin, then it doesn't apply to you. But I'm here to tell you, you're all virgins. Unless you have reproduced the Christ within, then you've already begun the work that God intends for you to do. Everybody that I've talked to, when you talk to them about the Virgin Mary, they say, well, she was wonderful because she basically, in the end, volunteered her body so that the Christ would have a body that he could manifest himself through. That's what she did. Because unto us a child is born. Mary became the mother of that child for for Christ to dwell in. If you think that's all that ever was to happen, you are wrong. Mary birthed that body for the Christ 2,000 years ago for her generation. But you today are to produce that Christ for your generation. Because if you go back to Isaiah chapter 7, Isaiah chapter 7, the Lord was talking to Ahaz and said in verse 11, ask a sign of me. Ask it either in the depth or in the height, but Ahaz said, I will not ask, neither will I tempt the Lord. So he said, hear ye now, O house of David. Is it a small thing for you to weary men, but will you weary God also? Therefore the Lord himself is going to give you a sign. And what is the sign? A virgin shall conceive. Let me tell you again, the world is not waiting for a better preacher. The world is not waiting for better revelation. The world is waiting to see something. And until they see something, they're not going to be terribly interested.